The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components' location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Missoula, Montana, on your new Pierce Fire apparatus, job number 34593. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting in the front bumper, passenger side, you'll find a notch in the front bumper housing the mechanical siren. Moving all the way over to the driver's side, you'll find your air horn, also recessed your siren and PA speaker system. Moving up onto the bumper extension, you'll find a tubbed storage location and also Velcro straps to hold the hose in position. Moving all the way to the driver's side corner of the front bumper extension is where you'll find a swivel discharge. Moving up onto the body and the face, you'll find marker and turn indicator lights on the outer edge. Moving just inside of that location, you'll find your headlight structure housing the low and high beam headlight. The high beam is on the inner side. Moving up from this location, you'll find emergency warning lights forward facing. As we move to the Pierce logo, directly behind this is where you'll find the release mechanism for your hood. Moving up, you'll find 3 windshield wipers across your seamless one-piece windshield. As we move to the outer edges, you'll find your mirror housing a flat and convex mirror. Moving up to the brow, just at the very top section of the windshield, is where you'll find 5 clearance lights. Moving just inside that location into the center, you'll find a forward-facing floodlight. And then as we move up onto the roof of the vehicle, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Let's take a couple close-ups of the images that we just talked about. First, starting with the bumper extension and hose storage location, and then also the location where you can find the latch behind the Pierce logo. Let's take a look under the hood. First, starting on the passenger side is where you'll find the fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. Moving over toward the center or driver's side, you'll find the location for fill for coolant. You'll also find instructions for raising the cab and lowering the cab. On the very far right, you'll find the red quarter turn. That is either into the raised position or to the lower position. The activation will be on a remote, which is the yellow with the black push button. Moving all the way to the extreme far right in this image, which will be the driver's area, you'll find your power steering ATF Dextron 3. This is the location in addition with a sight gauge. General view here of the driver's side. Let's start with the front cab in the bumper extension area, where we'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Moving into the step well of the driver's position, you'll find a step light in addition with an air inlet. Moving up from this location, you'll find the grab handles easily accessible with the gloved hand, and also they are keyed. Moving further up onto the side is where you'll find your grab handles for gaining access in and out of the cab. As we move to the rear of the front door, you'll find your auto eject. We'll cover that in just a moment. Moving further to the very rear section of the back wall is where you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Moving upward from this location on the very back of the cab wall, you'll also find a side-facing scene light, and then around the back side of the wall, you'll also find a floodlight. Let's look down now to the notched area. In the pump panel area is where we'll find 2 2.5-inch discharges located in the front section of the panel. As we move toward the center, you'll find the Pierce logo American flag eagle large diameter pump intake. As we move up into the upper corner, you're going to find some warning labels here. 1, you shouldn't ride on the side of your vehicle while it's in motion. We also have a pressure warning hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. And we also have an entanglement hazard because of those hoses, and also a foam failure issue. Do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam. Just beneath that, you'll find the foam draft fill location. As we move further down, you'll find your 2.5-inch female auxiliary inlet. At the very bottom section, you'll find all of your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. A couple close-ups, first starting with the number 1 driver's side discharge. You can see it's red in color and labeled. As we move all the way over to the draft foam tank fill location, you'll find the lever that's red. As we move to the very bottom, you can see color-coded discharge drains. Let's move to the roll-up compartment where you'll find your pump panel. We'll first start in the upper left-hand corner. We do have a couple of placards here. We'll go over those in just a moment. Just to the right and at the very top section is where you'll find an LED light. If your pump is properly engaged, when you come around, you'll see that light illuminating. Just down from that location, you'll find the red module, which is your Class A foam. To the right, you'll find a gray module. These are going to be your master gauges. We'll go over those in just a minute. You'll also find an audible alarm and also a visual indicator for your PCM fault. As we move down to the next section, you're going to find all of your discharges. They're clearly color-coded and also labeled. You'll find 3 on the left-hand side with a divider and 2 on the right-hand side. As we move further to the right, you'll find your pressure throttle governor, and we'll go over that in just a few moments. As we move further down from this location, you'll find your tank fill and recirculating line at the very lower section, and right next to it, the tank fill. There are 2 electronic valves at your pump panel here. These are the 2 operational modules for that. We'll go over those in just a moment too. As we move to the right, you'll find the red Husky foam system module. There is also a placard for the specifications of your foam system and also instructions. Right next to it, you'll find your primer, which is an air primer for your fire pump, and then also your master stream device on the far right. The lower section is going to house an access panel door and then all of your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. We'll go over those in just a few moments. Let's move back up to that upper left-hand corner first with their minimum operation maintenance schedule for test pressures of 150, 200, and 250 psi. On the left-hand side, you'll see the associated GPM for test pressure, and on the right, you'll see the associated RPMs. Also, just beneath this, you'll find an additional placard regarding warning. Only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment, and only after they received proper training. Let's move just to the right, and at the very top is where you'll find your pump engaged light that I mentioned earlier. As we move downward from this location into the red module, you'll find your foam level indicator for foam A. In the gray area, you'll find your master intake and master discharge. These are your 2 master gauges. In that same vicinity, you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. And as we move all the way to the right, you'll find an audible alarm for your PCM fault with a visual indicator. The outer edge of that bezel does allow you to dampen the sound. Let's move down to the next section where you'll find your discharges: front discharge, crossway number 1, and cross lane number 2. Moving further to the right, you'll find the driver and passenger side rear discharges. Let's go over your pressure throttle governor. If illuminated, it would be yellow in color. It is a check engine light. Moving to the right, you'll find a digital readout for your RPMs. And then moving further to the right, on the right edge of the pressure throttle governor is where your stop engine, it would be red in color if illuminated. As we move down, you'll find diagnostic engine information in the LED lights above. Moving to the very far right in that same area, you'll find something labeled pump. That is your pump temperature. As we move further down, you'll find in the blue area, this is your module for your water tank level indicator. Moving to the right, you'll find a red silence button, allowing it to silence any audible alarms that may be present from the pressure throttle governor. Moving down to the orange button, which is the menu button, which allows you to scroll through the various menu functions of your pressure throttle governor. There are 2 options, either pressure control mode or throttle or RPM mode. This is how you make the access to those 2, is through the blue control module mode. Moving to the right, you'll find your throttle ready. It is a green indicator, and then also a green preset button for any pressure control or RPM control presets. As we move to the large dial at the bottom, right to increase, left to decrease, push in the center for idle position. From this location, let's move downward and we'll talk a little bit about some of the other items on the sidewall. This is the vertical wall housing the air horn in red and then scene lights for driver side, passenger side, and rear. Moving just to the right, you'll find your tank fill and recirculating line and also your tank to pump. There are 2 electronic valves located, passenger side number 2 and large diameter passenger side. Moving to the right, the red module is your Husky foam system. There are also foam system instructions and also specifications in the placards just below. Moving to the right, you'll find your fire pump primer. It is an air prime. There is an instructional placard just beneath it, and it is for priming instructions. For best practices, you should be at least 1,000 RPMs. Moving further down, you'll find your headset connection and push-to-talk module. And then moving to the very far right, pink in color, you'll find your deluge discharge. And we'll now move down to the lower section of the pump panel where we're going to find all of our discharge drains, which are color-coded and also labeled.
To the right, you'll find an access door. That access door is for your foam lever for operations for fill. As you see, the yellow handle coincides with the instructions on the left. Also in this area, you'll find your manual pump shift override. It is that protected switch in the red area. Let's move to the location just above the notch, and that's where you're going to find your crosslays for crosslay 1 and crosslay 2. As we move also to the body itself, you'll find a marker light directly in front of the rear axle. You'll also find 2 emergency lights, one over the rear axle and then one at the very rear. Let's go ahead and take a look inside the compartments now. First, starting with the compartment over the rear axle, where you'll find a release mechanism on the tool board. You'll also find in that same vicinity SCBA bottle storage in front of the axle, and then to the rear you'll find your fuel situation, where you'll find ultra low sulfur diesel, which will be the silver cap. And then as we move this flap to the downward position, exposing the blue DEF tank. This is an 8.0 US gallon tank. It is the blue cap. As we move to the rear compartment, you'll find adjustable shelving and also a bottom tray that does pull out. The release is on the lower right. Let's start down at the very bottom of the tailboard. You'll find perimeter lighting right and left side, and also in the very center, you'll find an attachment or tow hook. Let's move now up onto the rear of the body, where you'll find your brake, turn, and reverse light. Just inside of that location, you'll find emergency warning lights, lower rear warning. As we move up from this location, you'll find some work lights. And then moving further up, you'll find your rear scene lights. There are 2, one on the right and left side. And then moving all the way up to the very top of the body is where you'll find 2 emergency warning lights rear facing. Let's move just inside the location above the roll-up door, where you'll find the 2 rear discharges, passenger side and driver side. Located directly in the center, you'll find your camera system for your backup system. Let's go from this location all the way over to the very top section, where you're going to find 2 pan doors located at the back. First one at the top, and then also one down in the lower section, which is a D handle. We'll cover those in just a moment. Let's go from this location to the very far right side, where you'll find all of your fold down steps to gain access to the roof and hose bed area. This is the roll-up compartment door. You can see on the right-hand side, the shelf does pull out. That's the release mechanism. As we now have the compartment doors open, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, you'll find long tool storage and also a folding 10-foot attic ladder. As we move down to your ladder storage, which I mentioned earlier, which is the D handle, you have a 24-foot extension and a 14-foot roof. Let's move to the other side, where you'll find your rear flood switch and also the rear scene light switch. You do have some warning labels here. Fall injury, do not ride on the rear of your apparatus while it's in motion, and also a pressure hazard warning. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when removing them. Just a quick close-up here of the steps in the folded down position. Let's go ahead and go up on top of the truck now. Talk a little bit about some of the items up here. In the very front bulkhead area, you'll find your Class A foam tank, and then you'll find your top fill location for your water tank. As we move to a little bit closer picture, you can find on the foam tank A, there is a warning label here regarding foam failure. Do not mix different brands and consistencies of foam. Let's move forward to this location to the dunnage area, where you'll find your master stream device. It does have an extend gun, so you can elevate the master stream device. As we move to the side, you'll find your Husky foam system. There is a fill location here, and you can see that it is your foam hydraulic oil reservoir. Let's look to the cab now. This is a non-walking surface. That's why we have these warning labels on the outer edges, just as a reminder. Let's move now to the rear section. Take a look at the side passenger area of your vehicle. We'll first start with the body in the rear compartments. Starting on the rear compartments, we'll find at the very top emergency warning light. Just over the rear axle, an additional emergency warning light. In the rear compartment, once again, LED lighting and adjustable shelving. As we move forward to this location, you'll find 2 sets of SCBA bottle storage location, emergency warning light directly over the rear axle, and then also LED lighting in the upper compartment. As we move forward to this location, I would like to point out this small caution. This is extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures, and be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. As we move now forward to the notched area at the back wall is where you'll find an additional adjustable telescoping pole light. As we move downward from this location, you'll find your crosslay, same crosslay as the passenger side as the driver's side. It is a through compartment. Moving all the way down to the very bottom, we'll start in the notched area with a couple of warning labels. First, starting with fall hazard. Do not ride on the side of your apparatus while it's in motion. We also have an entanglement warning hazard and also a pressure hazard warning. The American flag Eagle Pierce logo. This is your large diameter passenger side pump intake. Moving to the right, this is your passenger side 2.5 inch. Because it's electronic, we do have an override for that. As we move further down, you'll find your large diameter pump discharge for the passenger side, and it also has an override. Moving to the very far left, you'll find your auxiliary inlet. It is a female 2.5. Down at the very bottom, you'll find all your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Let's move now to the cab area in the driver's position. Affixed to the door panel, you'll find all of your caution and warning labels. In addition, you'll find electronic window controls and also door lock and latch. As we move down to the step area, you'll find your air inlet. And then as we move just inside the cab, you'll find your auto charge system. When plugged into shore power, this will become active. As we move to about the right ankle of the operator, you'll find this yellow placard. This is manufactured from Pierce. It has the date of manufacture, 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight ratings, cold tire inflation, the VIN number. It has all of your components for the fluid capacities and fluid types. Let's move from this location to the floorboard area. We'll find your brake and accelerator, and you'll also find your mechanical siren foot pedal. Moving from this location about the left knee, we're going to find some maintenance things here. First, tech module, engine, transmission, ABS diagnostic port, and a display port. You'll also find your ABS diagnostic switch and also engine diagnostic switch. Down at the very bottom, you'll find your engine inhibit and DPF regen switch. As we move to the dash on the left, you'll find your hazard lights with the red switch, ignition, and start switch. Moving to the right, you'll find an EM switch, which stands for Emergency Master, allowing you to engage or disengage all emergency lights. To the right, you'll find your headlight switch and panel rocker switch, allowing you to brighten or dim lights within preview of the operator. Let's start with the dash cluster. On the left, you'll find your transmission, oil, DEF level, and water temperature. On the right-hand side, you'll find your volts, fuel, front and rear air, speedometer and tachometer are in the center. Diagnostic information for your apparatus will display above and below the speedometer. Moving down to the right side, you'll find your high idle, OK to engage high idle indicator, and switch. Let's move overhead of the operator's position, first starting on the left with this yellow placard indicating the height of your vehicle, 9 feet 9.75 inches. The length of your vehicle, 32 feet 0.25 inches, and a gross vehicle weight rating, 46,500 pounds. If you make any adjustments to your vehicle that may affect any of these, please update this placard. To the right, you'll find a set of switches. These are going to be your emergency switches. First, emergency master, roof light, front warning and side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, and opticom. Moving just to the right, an additional set of switches, air horn, electronic siren, siren brake, rear scene, front flood, driver's side scene, passenger side scene, and rear flood. When any of these switches have been selected, the outer edge and the actual letters will illuminate green in color. Let's move just to the right where you'll find your siren control and PA speaker head. Moving further to the right, you'll find a digital readout for the engine pump pressure and also a water tank level indicator. In the very center of your apparatus, you'll find this light illuminating if you have a compartment door open or ajar. Do not move your apparatus until you've rectified the situation. Moving just to the right, general view of the dash area for the operator. We'll start on the left with the pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. It's the yellow diamond. Moving to the right, you'll find your Pierce command zone. Tremendous amount of information right here at your fingertips. Please see your owner's manual for more information. To the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad with a digital readout and an indication to pump in neutral. As we move to the right, you'll find your whale and yelp button, load manager, and tire chains. Moving down from this location, we'll find an engine brake switch, a setting switch for that engine brake for low, medium, and high, push to talk for your radio system, off-road traction, and mirror heat. Let's move further to the right to an additional set of switches where we'll find your stationary OK to pump and roll, your water pump switch, and also your foam switch. We do have two caution labels at the very bottom. Disengage the retarder when on vehicles on wet or slippery surfaces, and do not engage automatic tire chains when exceeding 25 miles per hour. Let's move further to the right where you'll find your mirror controls for the flat and convex mirror right and left side. As we move to the very center area, you'll find your climate control for heat, defrost, and air conditioning. As we move to the rear section of the cab, once again affixed to the door panels, you're going to find all of your safety warning information. You'll also find a red grab handle for gaining access in and out of the cab, and then all of your controls for mirror and door locks. On the right, you'll find in the very center, the rear section of your engine. There is a cutout location here for gaining access for your daily checks for oil and transmission. Let's take a quick look at the very rear wall of the apparatus, SCBA locations, and also 2 seats located in the center. Let's move to the rear of the driver's seat where you'll find your auto charge system for your batteries. When plugged into shore power, this device will be active. As we move now to the compartment in the very rear on the passenger side, you'll find netting and then also a switch on and off at the very top section. Also pointing out that there is that red grab handle at the hinge side for gaining in and out access. Once again, back to the very top, you can see the push button switch for the light inside the netted compartment. Let's move around now to the officer's position. We'll start with the labels on the door panel, once again for all of your safety. And also we'll find at the very bottom section, comfort controls for your seat. This is an air ride seat, and on the opposite side, you'll find front to back slider mechanism. In the very center, you'll find your vehicle data recording port. As we move to the front area, you'll find your push to talk for your radio system. You'll also find an air horn, electronic siren, and mechanical siren push buttons. As we look overhead from the officer's position, we do have storage locations, also push on and off white or white lens lights, and then also a switch bank. There's also location for your Sigtronic intercom system for squelch and volume control. And then also you'll find these candy cane warning indicating that you have spare wiring behind the panel that is currently numbered. As we move to the options here for the switching panel, you'll find your siren brake, 3 future switch locations at the very top if necessary, front flood, driver side scene, passenger side scene, and rear flood. Remember, when any of those switches have been activated, they will illuminate on the outer edge. Congratulations, Missoula, Montana, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34593. If you have any questions regarding your vehicle, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and have a great day.